Welcome back.
Welcome back, family. I'm Renee,
I'm Kareem.
and I want to say thank you to all of our longtime subscribers and listeners to hear us out, and to our new listeners and subscribers. Thank you for finding us and for hearing us out. And this is what I guess you would call like our second season, if you want to call it, going
Well,
into.
I guess because in our last episode
Right,
we did a series review,
right,
just going over all of the points we've made, all of the different discussions we've
right,
had, and really trying to put that part of the conversation to an end.
right,
And it was really about you know setting the stage and talking about everything that it isn't.
right,
How it's not what we think it is, and we won't be able to solve it in that way that we think we can solve it.
right.
But now, at this stage of the conversation,
hmm
it's about trying to define, well, what is it,
Right, right.
right?
Because for a while, I think that there's been a, maybe you can call it a lack of communication, because for a while, we've been saying that that this is racism, and then another group, or whatever the case may be, is not hearing what we're saying. And for much of our discussions, and pretty much of our lives, actually, it's been a back and forth, and no one tends to believe each other.
Mhm.
We don't believe folk when they say that it's not racism, and the vice versa. They don't believe us when we say that it is. So at this point now, we're trying to move in another direction, and versus saying that
Well,
everyone
like you
is
said, we're
lying.
trying to act on what we know,
Right.
right? Act like we know it,
Right.
and because, like I said before, is that like, instead of assuming that everyone's lying,
Right.
that everyone's wrong,
hmm
assume that everyone belongs where they are,
Right.
and that everyone's right.
hmm
What happens then?
Right. What happens when everyone is right?
Yeah.
Right? Even though I know that that may be a hard concept for people to even grasp, because if you say, well,
Well, if everyone's right, well, then what's wrong?
that exactly,
Right.
right? Right, you have that extreme. If everyone's right, then again, then
Yeah.
what is wrong? So
But it's contradictory, but it doesn't it doesn't cancel each other out,
fair enough.
right?
hmm
Because it's like what is the truth about our world?
hmm
No one knows.
Right.
Even if there is an answer to that question, right? Because like I said, the truth is that there is no truth.
Right.
Is that whatever you believe our world to be is what the world is.
Right.
So if you say, well, if there is no truth, then what's the lie? Then
hmm
what's the problem?
Right.
Right? And it's like, well, because when you're trying to create a society and a community or just a conducive environment, then the thing that makes something true or not,
hmm
the thing that makes something a lie or not, is the intent.
And the test of it as well.
The
Because
test can only go so far.
Fair enough.
Right, and,
Right.
and the test is an environment in and of itself.
Yes.
Like
hmm
something that's true in a lab may not be true
Right.
in the natural world.
Right. And so the thing that I want, at least I think that we need to look at is, we are on a planet with, I don't know, 7 billion people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we all have our individual experiences,
Mhm.
our individual relationships, with our experience and with the world. So in that vein, I would say that they can't necessarily be just one of this absolute
Mm-hmm.
with 7 billion different people. But I don't think that we, you know, have come to that, because it feels as if so much of so much of the world's problems, it's it's happening to one, It
Mhm.
feels as if it's imposed upon one.
Yeah, because that's the only
So,
way you can see it.
well, exactly, because that's your experience.
Yeah.
You understand me? And so I think what we would like to do, at least in this episode and the episodes
Yeah.
to come, is to not is just to bring another
Just another way of thinking,
another way of thinking.
and just another way of looking at it,
Right.
another form of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's not that no one's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's that everyone's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Uh,
So in that, what we're trying to say is that what you see and what you feel
mm-hmm.
is just as right as what anyone else sees and feels.
Mhm.
But when you're trying to create something where everyone can exist in, where both you and that someone else
Mm-hmm.
can exist in, then there is a barometer outside of ourselves to quote unquote test these
Mhm.
things.
Right.
Right? And that barometer is, like I said, the humanity. It's the
Right.
human condition. It
Mhm.
is those things that we hold to be, exemplary or to typify what a human being is supposed to be and what a human life is supposed to mean.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These things have been agreed upon for a very long time
Mhm.
on what life is supposed to be.
Right. It's just that.
It's just that everything that we do, at least we've built our world off of a thing that takes us away or exists in opposition
Mm-hmm.
to what we know life is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So when we say, or when, well, if it's not racism,
Mm-hmm.
then what is it? Okay, what is it? It's that's driving parents to storm school board meetings and get totally irate
Mhm.
about critical race theory, which is a concept that's never been taught in public elementary and secondary schools anyway.
It's a
You understand?
collegiate level
Yeah,
subject.
right. And so if it's not racism that's driving you here, then what is it?
But that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use a double negative here.
I know,
Right, but
right?
it's not that it's not racist,
Uh-huh.
right? Because from our point of view,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that is.
Right.
And I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
But from your point of view,
Mm-hmm.
that's not what it is.
Okay.
And you're right.
Right.
All right. So from what your point of view, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
What is it? Mm-hmm.
And if you say you don't want your children to hate America, you don't want your children to learn to hate America,
Mhm.
right? You don't want that,
Mhm.
and I can understand that.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's fine. That was a
Drop the
pity.
coin.
Yeah, drop the coin.
Yeah.
We're good. We're good.
and I can understand that.
Mhm.
I can understand, not wanting your child to have hatred of America, because I mean, to me, it's like not wanting your child to hate being black,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't want them to have this hatred of themselves. And you think them learning about, critical race theory, quote unquote, is making them hate themselves and hate their country and where they come from and all that stuff. And you don't want that for your child. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But you can't stop them from learning about history
Right.
and learning about where things come from.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop the uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
If your child has questions and is feeling a particular way about the circumstances that
Right.
they're in and where they came from, they don't think it's right. They don't think it's good. They don't feel good about themselves.
Mhm.
Right? Your job isn't to then to look at the curriculum, to look at history and say that's the problem.
Mhm.
Because it's not history that's making them feel this way.
Right. It's their current
It's the
predicament,
world
right,
that they're living
in right now.
It's the beliefs that they have to carry with them now.
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as I'm concerned, you're not doing your job.
Mhm.
Your job is to be able to make that into something.
Mhm.
You're upset. You're the parent, and so is your child. Your
Mm-hmm.
child is picking up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything isn't all right, and that it's okay to feel that way.
Right.
You're supposed to feel that way when something is wrong. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is you're looking over here.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at us,
Right.
because they're learning to hate. Learning about racism isn't learning to hate white people.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two separate things. Learning American history is not about learning to hate white people.
Mm-hmm.
Learning that George Washington owned slaves doesn't automatically mean that you have to then hate George Washington.
Right.
Right? I don't hate George Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I admire the man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he was a slave owner.
Mm-hmm. And he was cruel.
He took part
Yes.
in slavery.
Right.
He did these things.
That's right.
He ruined lives.
Right. And I remember one time
Right.
mentioning
So-
the word totality. Right. And so you want the myth of George Washington, right? And I'm like, but George Washington wasn't a myth. He was a living human being. He was a man. He was a white man.
He was a man of his times, an
Yes.
exemplary man of his time.
Right.
Because he wasn't the only, rich white man who owned slaves. Right?
Yeah. And became an American president.
Yeah, but he was the
Right.
president. He walked away from power. He
Right.
defined the office.
Right.
He did these things.
Mhm.
He was the one who decided to be called president. I think we talked
Yeah, we
about
talked
these
about
things
it,
before.
right.
But I can admire that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can admire that with the understanding that he was a white man of his time.
Right.
Who owned slaves. Who took part. We don't need to specify
Mhm.
that he was cruel. Slavery was cruel in and of itself.
Right, but I'm just saying
To
the
be a
reason.
slaver.
Yeah, but the only reason why I mentioned that is because of his contemporaries. They let it be known.
Yeah. that
And
he was
because
cruel.
that he was
I know,
cruel.
but I'm just saying.
Right, that's why I
Is that
mentioned
slavery is
it's
cruel,
cruel in itself. Right.
Right. So yes, he was a cruel slave master.
Mhm.
There's no other slave master you can possibly be.
Right.
But he also did these other things.
Mhm.
You can look at these things and still, recognize what that person did.
Mm-hmm.
That's not hatred.
Right.
That's context.
Mm-hmm.
That's understanding the mistakes that were made. Like we
Right.
talk
We
about.
talked about this, yeah.
Like we talk about with us,
Mhm.
about with Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and not mythologizing about
Mhm.
our heroes,
Mhm.
and understanding that they were men of their time,
Mhm.
who did the best that they could in their time,
Right.
who gave their answers,
Mhm.
who built their organizations,
Right.
who made the moves, who took the marches, who had the marches and took the bullet.
Mhm.
Right. So whether you agree or disagree
Mhm.
with their particular beliefs about any fixture of our system and or any type of philosophical understandings and
Mhm.
conclusions they've come to, right? You have to be able to recognize that that person is of their time,
Mhm.
and to be able to critique them,
Right.
and to challenge their notions
Right.
is not defaming
Right.
their effigy.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to have these conversations. That's how history becomes a lesson. That's how you learn from it. That's how you build from it.
Right. And what has been transpiring? You have a people who have been lied to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They've been lied to. And there's a system in place to entrench those lies. Okay? White flight and all of that great stuff that they did to get out of our, I guess, space.
Mm-hmm.
Where they can attend these schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
With no black people, no black teachers, the whole
Mhm.
shebang, right? And you attended these schools. These were it's the best schools. They test better. They do this. They do that. And then it's time for them to interact with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out that yes, you received the best education. You graduated from the best school and all of this stuff. But when you walk out, you find out you've been lied to.
Mm-hmm.
Cognitive dissonance sets in.
Mm-hmm.
You're questioning. You become depressed.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know how to respond.
You become angry.
You become angry.
And you don't know who to be angry
You're
at.
about, right.
And we've talked about that before.
Mhm.
Like we say, you can either walk with your blackness or walk against it.
Right.
Right? And that's one of the things that, like you said, when you first learned about racism
Mhm.
and what has happened to you and what is happening,
Right.
you hate.
Mhm.
And it's not you hate white people and that's just where it ends.
Right.
No, you just hate.
Right.
You hate white people. You hate black people. You
You
hate
just
Latino people.
right. You hate
Asian people.
right.
You hate people.
Right.
You hate the world.
Yeah, I'm about to say you hate the planet.
everything.
Right. Just
You
right.
hate animals.
Right.
And that hate doesn't go away.
Right.
It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes when I wake up and I think we all need to just die.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
it doesn't go away.
Right.
But you need to be able to talk with yourself and have that conversation and
Mhm.
recognize that you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's the lesson.
Mhm.
That's like I said, that's the work. That's
Right.
the constant work.
Right.
Is keeping those feelings at bay
Mhm.
to try to be and do constructive things,
Mhm.
just in your own life. I'm not talking about starting a revolution
Right.
and stuff like that. I'm just talking about just being able to live,
Right.
right? Being able to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
that type of work.
Mhm.
And I can understand you as a parent not wanting your child to feel that way,
Mhm.
not wanting them to have that hatred, right? But we know better than anyone
Oh yes.
that not teaching them what they need to know is not going to fix that.
Right.
Not letting them know where they stand
Mhm.
and where the world stands
Mhm.
with them.
Right.
Not knowing, how to deal with these situations is not going, because, in our case, it's going to get you killed.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
But, for y'all, it's a little different.
Mhm.
And that's okay. That's fine because it's still the same anger. It's
Mhm.
still the same fears.
Mhm.
And you don't need to have your life on the line to understand, what it's like to have your life on
On
the
the
line.
line.
You're feeling it right now.
Mhm. You're frustrated.
You're frustrated. You're
Mhm.
angry. You're not satisfied. You're lashing out. But the thing is that anger that you're feeling has been co-opted by these, vultures and
Mhm.
parasites who got you pointing at us.
Right.
This whole thing about the critical race theory is a manufactured outcry, all together.
Right.
It was like I said, a bunch of Republican and conservative think tanks got together and found critical race theory in a dictionary. And they're like, that sounds scary.
Right.
Let's just make that the
Right.
catch-all for all the feelings that you have about the world.
Right.
Right? And then you got all these people, you've seen the videos,
Mhm.
and none of them are normal people. All of them have a vested interest of all part of organizations and
Mhm.
or podcasts trying to
Right.
get their name out there, trying
Right.
to do this, all this stuff. That's so it's like you've manufactured this. You've created this. And now once again, we have to have this conversation.
Right.
But instead of looking at it as something that you're manufacturing, we're looking at it like, well, look at these white people again doing
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
Because how else are we supposed to feel?
Right.
It's another punch,
It's
another
another-
blow,
right.
another stupid conversation
Right.
that we need to have because we need to retain rights to our pain. Just learning about it. We can't even learn about how to vocalize our pain anymore.
Right.
Because now you're hurt
Right.
all of a sudden. Right? And you get frustrated, you get angry. And that's okay. It's okay. Right? Because we know what this actually is.
Mhm.
We have the presence of mind to say, okay, I know who's actually doing this.
Mhm.
And I know why they're doing it.
Mhm.
It's because they're losing power.
Yeah.
And I know why you're there.
Mhm.
It's because you're afraid. Because you don't have no damn power.
Right.
I know why you're there. I
Mhm.
know what this is. Why? Because how am I not going to know?
Right.
I know what it's like to not have any power.
That's right.
I know what it's like to lash out.
Mhm.
I live in this. That is my constant reality.
Mhm.
It's yours too, but you don't call it that.
Right.
And it's okay.
Mhm.
You don't have to call it racism. That's what racism is costing you.
Mhm.
Right? But you don't have to call it racism.
Mhm.
That's fine. That's the reality to me.
Mhm.
The reality to you is the cognitive dissonance.
Right.
It's the fear.
Mhm.
Right? And if that's the reality for you, then we can go from there.
Right.
And that's really, the big point that we want to make with this is that if we can no longer blame each other, right, as monoliths,
Mhm.
right? If we as black people can't just wholesale blame white people, and
Mhm.
if those white people can't just wholesale black people,
Mhm.
right? If everyone's right, And if everyone belongs where they are, no more border disputes, no more placing blame, no one. Where do we go from there?
Right.
Where do we go when you believe them?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you have to go out of and it's like you have to go out of your way
Right.
to believe them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go out of your way because your gut reaction when you hear all this
Yeah.
is you're lying and you're always lying
Yep.
because you're liars.
Yep. Yep. Lie is lie.
Right.
Right.
And here you go trying to defend your screwed up system with
Right.
more lies.
That's right.
Once again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's and it's a healthy reaction.
Yes.
It is a healthy because it's true.
It's true.
It's true.
Right.
You're right. But you have to know how to be right.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know where the rightness is.
Mm-hmm.
How to build from it.
Right.
Right. And the thing is, like I said, so you want the complexity.
Mm-hmm.
You need it. Because come to find out, you've got more friends than you think.
Mm-hmm.
You've got more people who understand your feelings than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we've often said, that black people don't have any friends.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any
Right.
friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And but I don't say I agree with that. What I would say is that there is no other people on this planet that can possibly understand what it's like to be black.
Correct.
Period.
Period.
You can't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that gets upset when you say you do.
Mm-hmm.
When you try to understand.
Right.
I get upset.
Mm-hmm.
I get upset even when you apologize.
Mm-hmm.
I get upset, and I just don't want to hear it because you don't know.
Right. Right.
I don't want to hear you justify. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to hear you, place blame. I don't want to hear you talk about it. I don't even want you to agree with me. I don't want to hear it.
Right.
I don't want to hear it from you, period.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't get it.
Right.
Period. This is my battle.
Mm-hmm.
This is my conversation. This is my thing. I don't even want you to take part.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Because the healing is here with me.
Right.
And as long as I have to hear your mouth, period, it's always going to be there.
Right.
So if I cannot have this conversation for myself, if I cannot, heal myself from this, then I won't be healed.
Right.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's the same thing, but I don't understand what it's like to be white.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what it's like to live in your world, to have your pressures and have your demands.
Mm-hmm.
I can approximate, just like
pretty
you can
much, right?
approximate
Mine, right?
Just like we're human beings.
Means right.
We've built off approximations. We've built off less.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And that's the thing. You don't have to know what it's like to be black.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to know what it's like to be white.
Right.
But we both know what it's like to be failed.
Mm-hmm.
To fail. We know what that's like to live with failure, to live in failure.
Right.
It's impossible to succeed in this world.
Yeah, because for as much as, we live under racism, black people, they live under that same umbrella too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Even though we don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is something that is happening to us.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we want to, expand this conversation, give it another direction.
Mm-hmm.
Because much of, the racism is what has happened to us, what has impacted us. But much of, the conversation has never dealt with, well, what has racism done to you all? Mm-hmm. How has it impacted your lives? And like we talked about yesterday and many times before, but particularly yesterday, is that, they may not even call it racism. And I do agree that it really doesn't matter what you call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to.
You don't have to, right, you don't have to call it. Mm-hmm. But you do know
that it hurts.
That it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
That something is wrong, that the system has failed you. Understand it. If the system has failed you,
mm-hmm.
then you should already know
what it's doing to the rest.
What it's doing Yeah, to the rest of the people.
To the rest of the planet.
Planet. Because it's failing you.
The one person is supposed to
Right.
you know.
Yeah, you're supposed to be the one.
You're supposed to be on top of the world.
On top of the world, getting all the goodies and everything else. And yet, well, I saw you.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you out there, January 6th. I saw you out there. I saw you.
I see you at Walmart.
Yeah, about to say, see you at the Walmart,
Nobody who's well off is at Walmart.
Yes.
Period.
Right. You understand me? Yeah. Okay? So, we see it. You see it too.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that you have folk who are playing on you. Who are playing on all of us, but especially playing on you. Because, there's only so much that can be pickpocketed from us. And as long as they have you all pointing a finger at us, okay, then they can rob you all blind. Steve Bannon actually did that already, but that's a whole nother game.
That's Lyndon B. Johnson.
That's Lyndon B. Johnson, yeah. And that's what they've been doing. But but like I said, they always gave you enough, to keep you, I guess, satisfied. And I use that in quotations.
To keep you above us.
Yes. And now you're starting. Well, you're frustrated. You don't know who to point at. So now it's
the same old.
It's the same old. Now it's it's the liberal media and wokeness and all kind of other foolishness.
There's all these catch terms created by people who are co-opting your pain.
Right. They don't even give a shit about your pain.
They don't. They're using it to maintain their own power.
Yeah.
And we know culture vultures better than anyone else.
That's right.
We know what it's like for someone to try to imitate you, try to take your voice for their own profit.
That's right.
And then tell you that you don't have a
voice.
Look at you.
Right.
You do have a voice. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that you're letting all the wrong people use it.
Right.
And you ain't gonna get nowhere with them, bro.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right. You've been bamboozled.
Mm-hmm.
That's what has happened. But like I said, like we mentioned, you're frustrated. You don't even know who to be frustrated at. So of course, the easy target is over here.
They tell you who to be frustrated at.
Well, yeah, they tell you.
Yeah, they tell you.
They tell you. But you know something is wrong. You hear yourself. You see yourself. How many times that people have gone on video, they said the most ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like, come on, bro.
It's the stupidest.
The stupidest.
Trying to justify
right? But when they said it, they thought it was all. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I said this. I'm sorry. Of course, black people are like, yeah, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I can't believe I'm not like this. And we're like,
yeah, all right.
We're looking at you like you're crazy.
Look.
But I'm just saying that at the moment when they did that, they didn't even recognize how.
You can't even recognize it in yourself. I think there's a documentary. I don't even know what it was called, but it was someone who they went into these countries and they went to these former dictators and saying that they were making a movie, right? And they were and they wanted the dictators and people who who did these atrocities to do a reenactment and a dramatization of what they did when they were dictators,
right?
Generals and stuff, and they couldn't stomach it. They couldn't do it. They couldn't. They were breaking down, crying, and stuff like that. Because when you're in the moment, when you're on top of the world, quote unquote, then when you're riding in that feeling, it'll take you all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And you'll do all type of stuff. You'll say all type of stuff.
That's right.
But the moment you're outside of that, and you have to look back, and you have to, recognize and deal with what you did, you won't be able to. You can't.
Right.
No rational person can. It's like with the Little Rock Nine. right? Remember,
Okay.
how all those, white people. You see all the photos, them
Right.
screaming at these
Mm-hmm.
kids
Yeah.
screaming at these kids. And then you remember they went on the Oprah Winfrey show,
Yeah.
right? And they tried their best to try to, justify
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Just they tried, because now they're grown up
Yeah.
and they have to look back
That.
on
Mm-hmm.
when they did that,
Right. And that's all. It's going to always be
and
there.
it's always
Always
going to
going to
be
be
there.
there.
Always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to look back and see what they were,
Mm-hmm.
what they did,
Mm-hmm.
and they won't be able to reconcile it.
Right.
They're going to fall in on themselves and sound like idiots.
Yeah.
A few of them,
Few. They. Yeah.
may be able to truly admit
Mm-hmm.
what they did,
Mm-hmm.
admit it to themselves,
Selves.
what they allowed themselves to become.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment is going to come.
Right.
Just like the moment for us,
Mm-hmm.
when we have to recognize our blackness,
Right.
and what we've allowed this world to do to us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Allowed, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I know that's
Right.
that's a touchy term for a lot of people, but hey,
Yeah.
what we've let this world change us into.
Right. We know something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And yet we've compromised.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones who made, we're the ones who made the changes. At every rip, we were willing to do, whatever it was to try.
They were black slave owners.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the conversation we need to have about that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not saying that was all of us, but I'm saying you take a majority of the people right now
Mm-hmm.
who have a problem with this world, have a problem with that station.
Mm-hmm.
You give them a pay raise.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times that. I mean,
you give them a better paying job.
Yeah, like one of my very good friends who I miss dearly used to always say, "See, right now, you're mad and you're angry.
Mm-hmm.
And you're upset about a particular system, whatever the case may be. Get a $10,000 pay raise, all of a sudden you ain't in a revolution no more. You out the line.
You don't even need a pay raise.
Right.
Just give them a good convincing story.
Whatever.
Look at you now, you vaccine stuff. Look at this.
Yeah, this is come on now. But I'm just saying.
I thought you were a revolutionary.
Right. Now all of a sudden
you're also your American citizen.
Well, yeah. You know my line about that. You know my line about that.
So,
right.
This is what this world has done to us,
mm-hmm.
and it's a hard pill to swallow.
I think
it's a hard pill, and it would be a hard pill.
I think what has happened also is that, we've been broken, and and in this pain, and we feel that in order to make it fair, the justice is
mm-hmm.
that we need to break you
mm-hmm.
to make you feel this pain. But the thing is that it doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't improve
mm-hmm.
our situation by breaking them.
Beating.
Yeah. That's
mm-hmm.
And I don't want to make I'm gonna say that, but I don't want to make it seem as if right.
Yeah.
Is that so much of our trying to correct, and I think Toni Morrison has hinted on that as well, is that we have taken too much of our time trying to correct this and to correct that and to correct this. It's going to always be something.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you away from the work that you should be doing. We cannot correct the decisions that a George Washington made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we cannot go back and correct those things, but we can correct. We can do the things.
This now.
We can fix this right now.
Mm-hmm. It's like we talked about, with slavery. We can't make that right.
Right.
There's nothing we can do today that's going to make that right.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get justice for them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get vengeance for them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't. There's nothing we're going to be able to do to salve that wound.
That's right.
It is permanent and it will be there forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going anywhere.
Right.
But what we can do is fix what we're dealing with today. That's what we can do.
Right. This country is one of the biggest purveyors of human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
We know this. Okay? And we know about, enslavement in other countries around the world. We can stop that. We can fix that today.
Yeah.
You understand? So even what we're dealing with right now, look at all of the social angst that we're having. I mean, it shouldn't even be problems. Are we really talking about in the United States and even worldwide, where people are hungry, where people do not have clean drinking water, utilities, a house? Like, are you serious? We know why that is the case.
Yeah.
We know why that there are, people going hungry and don't have the necessities of life. We do not live in the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
We do not live in the jungle. In the jungle, there's a certain type of,
kill or be killed type mentality.
Right. But we are not there for a reason because we're human beings. And we should. Yes.
The jungle. We decided to live with each other
right.
to alleviate that stress.
These issues. We were very cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't
like we touched on before. We needed to be. Right. We are genetically hardwired to be.
Right. So we are now acting. We're not even acting in our best self-interest to even help each. We're not acting in our best interest when we do not help each other.
Like you said, it's more cost effective,
right?
To eliminate homelessness, it's more cost effective to just give them a house,
right,
than to put them in jail,
right, and spend wasteless dollars on all thousands of dollars
on maintaining that, right. Maintaining their prisonership, having to feed them and dress them and all the things, get them all the medical care. For them to be a prisoner. Right.
How many times have we said over the years, over the decades, if we spend $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 per inmate, imagine what it could be if you spent $30, $40, $50,000 for a child in kindergarten, 3rd grade, 6th grade, things of that nature. We can do this,
but we don't.
And you have people who are dangling that carrot.
We haven't made that choice yet.
We haven't made, because now it has to come from us, the folk down here, because
I said the problems happen from the top
down, right?
If you're looking for the people at the top to alleviate the situation, then you're looking at the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean,
they worked.
Right.
We've I don't know how long.
We've talked about that.
Been here.
Right.
I don't know what else you need to see.
Right.
We've had a black president. Mm-hmm. And we're still having this conversation.
Right. We have black billionaires.
Mm-hmm. We've had it all.
Right. And here it is.
We're still here.
Mm-hmm.
You had Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. And you're still here. Right. Still here. So, so I think.
So let's just take a step back.
That's my line.
Just take a step back.
Step back.
And take a chance on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Stop arguing about this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that we need to argue about, that we need to hash out, but this one ain't one of them.
Right.
Let's take a chance on each other.
Yeah. Let's try to operate from a point of everyone is telling the truth.
Let's just believe each other. Let's just believe each other.
Right.
Let's go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because frankly, I'm quite tired of disagreeing with you on this. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's no other side of this conversation.
Right.
That's just what it is.
Right.
And as far as you're concerned, there's no other side to it. That's just what it is. So you know what? I'm tired of talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can say that can make it right anyway.
Yeah, quite honestly.
There's a lot of things you can do. So let's just stop talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stop talking about it.
Now, when we say let's stop talking about it, we're not.
Well, no, I mean let's stop arguing about it. Let's stop blaming each other.
Let's.
If we were talking about it, then I think that would be really good. But we're not talking about it. We're
because you have folk out here
against one another.
Yeah, but I want to make it clear here that we're not saying, let's stop talking about racism.
Yeah, no, that's
because if you keep talking about the reason why you have racism is because you keep talking about it. See, that's not. You know what? I think you all know that we're not saying that.
But just to clarify.
But I want to definitely clarify. We're not taking that Morgan Freeman route here.
No. That's not what we're talking about. When we, like I said, let's stop leveraging our pain against one another.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just all accept that we're in pain and go from there. Right? So let's take a chance on each other. Mm-hmm. Let's believe one another. Mm-hmm. I'm going to believe you.
Mm-hmm. You say that you're in pain. You say that you're suffering. And
I'm going to need you.
Right. To believe
me. Because a lot of our situation comes from our position in society. Mm-hmm. You may not understand being black, but you do understand being poor. Mm-hmm. I understand being poor too. Right? So let's go from there. Mm-hmm. Let's go from there. Because a lot of being black is being poor. Mm-hmm. We can fix that.
Yeah.
Right? There's some intangibles.
Of course.
But a majority of it is being poor. Mm-hmm. We can fix that. We can solve that. Mm-hmm. We can move that. We can do that. So let's do that. Mm-hmm. Because this isn't getting us anywhere. We've been at it for a very long time.
Right. And if you were getting anywhere with it, well, again, you wouldn't.
Where's that?
Well, where's that? I mean, why? Like I said, why are you storming school boards? Mm-hmm. Why are you storming the Capitol? If everything,
if everything's okay,
right?
You're dissatisfied. But the thing is, you should. And like I said, you should be. You should be angry. Mm-hmm. You should be upset. Right? I fully understand you not wanting your kids to hate being white, to hate themselves, mm-hmm. to hate their country and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? I get that. But we need to put everything in its proper context for it to be actionable.
Right. You understand that you don't want your children to feel, guilty about being white.
Or attacked
for being white. Mm-hmm. Can you levy that same type of consideration when I say I don't want my son to be killed, or, I want my son to be afforded a great education too. Mm-hmm. That I don't want my son to feel like he's a criminal learning American history in the classroom. You understand? Like the same thing, like, can you do that? Can you be considerate of that? Mm-hmm. Because that's what you want for your children. You don't want your children to feel guilty about being, attacked for being white. But guess what? I don't want my children in school to be attacked because they're black. I want that's. Mm-hmm. Can we do that?
We can both alleviate that situation.
But the thing is that so much of this has been this.
But you're thinking that you're going to get, like we said before, mm-hmm. you're thinking that it comes at the cost of us.
Right.
Right? That's not how it goes. Mm-hmm. You ain't going to get nothing trying to get something over here because we can't pay.
Right.
We broke, bro.
Right.
Ain't nothing over here.
Yeah.
You've been at this conversation for such a long time. You're going to be having it, bro, because we ain't got it for you.
Right. Your angst is being pointed towards us. Because of your frustration. It's going to require a step back for you too.
Yeah.
It's going to require a step back for you to understand how you're the one that's being used.
Mm-hmm.
See, we already know the using thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So now you're the one that's being used.
See, we've always, the thing is, we had a hard time understanding the indirectness of it.
Right.
Of, the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Because our oppression for a very long time was never indirect.
That's right. It was correct.
It was very, very, very poignant
Mm-hmm.
and directed.
Mm-hmm.
Very assertive.
Right.
Made itself clear from the very beginning.
Right.
But for y'all's oppression has always been indirect.
Right.
It's always been, different channels and all that stuff, and you've always had this general feeling of dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let's go from there.
Mm-hmm.
We can believe that.
Right.
I can believe that.
Right.
I can believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that as a black person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't
Right?
understand
I
that.
can't
Understand it as a white person. Right.
But I can understand it from here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go from there. And like you said, you may not call it slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You may not call it racism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But whatever it is you call it,
Mm-hmm.
call it that.
Right.
And we can go from there.
Right.
We don't have to call it the same thing. We can't call it. We shouldn't call
Call
it
it the same thing.
We shouldn't.
That's right. And let's, try not to, one up each other when it comes to pain.
Good.
Like I always be like, what's the difference? What's the difference between a heart attack and a stroke when both of them can kill you?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're dealing with here. Heart attack and strokes. Heart attack, stroke.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting the same result. It's just a different ailment.
Mm-hmm.
So now we need to be about the business of being about the business of doing the work. And that's not. And see, the thing is that it's not to say that you won't have any disagreements. That's not what we're talking about here. Disagreements
they're fine.
They're fine.
They don't devolve into this. This isn't disagreeing. This is
madness. Right. This is not. We're not even having a conversation about disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
There is no disagreement on racism.
Mm-hmm.
There's no disagreement here. Not even from those who are quote unquote imposing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no disagreement there. Okay? The thing is that, do you want to continue to live under the system of racism?
Mm-hmm.
However you want to flow the chart or build the pyramid. Do you want to continue to live under that? Okay? Or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
For you, do you want to continue?
Do you want to continue living with that pain?
That's right. For you. Like, because whatever your pain is, I am not going to dismiss your pain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to continue to live like that? To feel that way? To have that angst? To have those... Do you want that? You have to answer that for yourself. But I'm leaning on the fact that you're probably going to say, no, I don't want to be frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want this. Okay, so
let's go from there.
Let's go from there. I believe you when you say no, so let's work on that. Let's do that. Simple, it's simple. Once you acknowledge it, you're responsible for it.
You should be.
Well, you should be. But you're responsible for it. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so that's just what I'm, feeling and getting at. And look, I get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever think that, at least for me, that I'm on cruise control with anything. You know, I'm I'm tired. I'm frustrated too. You know, so I don't forget the thing. I haven't forgotten anything, but it doesn't mean I can't move the way that I need to move because I haven't forgotten anything. And I think a lot of people equate, well, if you just dismiss that, then you're dismissing this. No, I'm not. I'm not. Those things, they're always there. As a matter of fact, that's the motivation for me to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because of what has been holding, because of what I've been holding on to for so long. Now I can move in another direction because now I understand for the things that I have gone through, you know, the frustrations that I had to deal with, and how I needed to move in another direction.
Mm-hmm.
And in moving in that direction, it still it has its ups and downs, but it's not that.
Mm-hmm. It's not what it was.
It's not what it was.
So, in conclusion, our very first episode, we talked about Afrocentricity
Mm-hmm.
and how Afrocentricity is not a weapon.
Right.
It's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
That's our answer. At least that's the lens that allows us to create our answer,
Mm-hmm.
to exist in something constructive, right? And to take these feelings that we have and make it into something constructive that we
Mm-hmm.
can use, to get ourselves out of it, right? And everything we've talked about since then has been about levying that tool to dismantle a lot of the preconceived notions and feelings that we have built up,
Mm-hmm.
over time in, addressing our situation. Now we have reached this point
Mm-hmm.
where we recognize that it's impossible for people outside of our paradigm to have Afrocentricity.
Mm-hmm.
You have to live it. It's not an acquired taste. You can't pick it up at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's our reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't have that, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at this point, we truly want to get to a basis where we can talk about building. We've
Mm-hmm.
dismantled enough. Let's try to talk about how to create something.
Mm-hmm.
And this, much like Afrocentricity was our first step, then communication is our first step now.
Mm-hmm.
Believing believing each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first step. The very first thing that you can do. And it's not easy, just because it's first, that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But the first thing that you can do is just give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Believe, when I say them, I'm not, I mean those people
Right.
who are making themselves your opposition. Those people who are opposed to you,
Mm-hmm.
who are standing on the other side of you,
Mm-hmm.
who are holding the door closed.
Right.
And when they tell you why they're doing it, believe them. Believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way that they're going to be able to understand, right, how it is you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
how it's affecting you.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn all the stats, you can learn all the history,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's no learning this experience. It's just having
Living it. That's right. Living it. That's right.
And you don't need to have it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have it. We can go from where you are. You don't have to speak my language.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have Afrocentricity. You don't need to have my lens. You shouldn't have my lens.
Right.
It's mine.
It's mine. Right.
But I need to have the strength to be able to work with yours,
Mhm.
just as much as you need to have the strength to work with mine.
Mhm.
That's the basis. That's where we're at now.
Mhm.
We're at step one. Believe each other.
Mhm.
Where do we go from there? Well, this is new.
Right.
It's new. But when you get here, I often say that, my worldview condenses a bit. It's like a lot of the pieces snap into place, and the scope just zooms in.
Mhm.
Things become a bit clearer
Mhm.
once you move past that point.
Mhm.
We've often talked about, healing and all that good stuff, but this is healing in practice.
Yeah. Because understand that we have been lying to each other.
Hmm.
What is currently constructed has been based on lies and
Hmm.
lying to each other. And we don't like it.
Hmm.
It has failed us. And like you've already mentioned, it's failed y'all too. Because all of this has been built on lies. Maybe we could try something else.
Hmm.
You know, versus building on you're a liar, you're a liar.
Hmm.
Now let's try to build on, you know what? Believe I believe you. I
You're
believe
telling the
you.
truth,
Yeah, we're telling
and
the
I'm
truth.
truth.
Right.
So
Let's
yeah,
try that.
let's try that.
Mhm.
If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments. And thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you.